Of all people, Terry Thomas despised him the most. In Finchley, London, Thomas Terry Hoyer Stevens came into this world on July 14, 1911. His name is Terry Thomas. His unique style and charisma made him one of the most adored and iconic British comedians of all time. He made a name for himself in post-war British movies thanks to his gap-toothed smile, charming personality, and brilliant comedic timing. Fans loved and identified him by his iconic on-screen character, a dashing aristocratic cad or bounder, who frequently sported a cocktail and a witty remark. But under all that polish was a consummate professional who gave 110% to every picture in which he was an actor. Terry Thomas got his start in show business in the 1930s, worked their way up the ladder to radio host after stints leading bands and performing in cabarets. He was a member of the British Army during WWI, when he was able to put his innate sense of humor and ability to lift morale to use as a producer and performer in Army entertainment units. In the 1950s, he made the leap to the big screen, appearing in a number of hit British comedies, such as Private's Progress, 1956, Blue Murder at St. Trinian's, 1957, and most famously, I'm All Right, Jack, 1959, in which he played a hilariously nefarious business manager. He was a mainstay of the British satire known as Ealing, which wryly mocked post-war society, bureaucracy, and social stratification. Terry Thomas's mastery of the stereotypical KD, a character who lacks genuine villainy, was a defining feature of his work, despite their narcissism, cowardice, and selfishness. His humorous characters were charmingly charming and self-deprecating, making them impossible to resist. His distinctive plummy voice and catchphrases like, "You're an absolute shower," cemented his position in British popular culture and became household names. His expressive visage, clipped diction, and, of course, the famed gap between his front teeth became an unexpected trademark and lovable trait, and he was a master of exaggerated mannerisms. He became famous all around the world in the 60s. Terry Thomas frequently played several versions of his famous persona in big plays in the US and Europe. The 1963 ensemble comedy It's a Mad, 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 Mad World and the 1965 ensemble comedy How to Murder Your Wife both featured him, where his natural charisma and comic timing kept him in the spotlight among A-list actors. Even though he was a typecast actor, he kept his performances interesting by giving them nuanced differences that showcased his range. He was charming and entertaining in every role he played, whether it was a military clown, a manipulative socialite, or a fearful adventurer. Despite the joy and success that filled his professional life, sorrow eventually struck his personal life as well. The symptoms of Parkinson's disease, a degenerative neurological ailment that would gradually take Terry Thomas's performing abilities, first appeared in the late 1970s. His health and wealth had taken a nosedive by the decade's conclusion, and he had already retired from acting in the early 1980s. A tragic turn of events saw the man who formerly personified cockiness and comedic grace sunk to almost poverty. When friends and colleagues, such as Michael Caine and Richard Breers, planned a gala to help him out in his latter years, it was a touching time for everyone. It was a moving tribute to his adored status in the entertainment industry. Meeting the extraordinary and captivating South African dancer and choreographer Ida Florence Patlansky in 1937 was a watershed point in Terry Thomas's formative years. She was an intense, passionate, and technically proficient flamenco artist who went by the evocative stage name Pat Patlansky. Her performances were dynamic and captivating. Patlansky had gone to London in search of a flamenco dancer to accompany her someone whose rhythm and personality would temper her blazing stage presence. But she saw something special in Terry Thomas during the audition process. His charm, unique attitude, and comic timing were more impressive than his dancing skills. Pat Lansky made a brilliant choice when she decided not to look for a conventional dancing partner. She cast Terry Thomas not to dance with her, but to provide comic relief. Following her innate theatrical talent, she dreamed up a new performance that combined his unique and endearingly aristocratic sense of humor with her dramatic flair. Because of their collaborative spirit, a cabaret duo named Terry and Pat Lansky was born. Audiences in London were immediately captivated by the duo's innovative performances and couldn't get enough. This finely dressed, gap-toothed comedian with his ostentatious manners and pompous accent stood in stark contrast to the graceful dancer. As they performed a mix of visual comedy, dance, satire, and light musical performances, their connection was contagious. Plus, they shot to fame on the cabaret scene. They began a romantic relationship offstage as well as onstage. Terry Thomas and Pat Lansky were married at London's Marylebone Register Office on February 3, 1938, after a fast, growing attachment between them. After getting hitched, they moved into a chic duplex at 29 Bronwyn Court in the artsy and verdant St. John's Wood district. The area's reputation for bohemianism and its closeness to the theaters and music halls in central London provided them with an ideal foundation from which to begin their artistic careers. Terry and Pat Lansky were a popular double act, but they didn't last long after their early success peaked. The duo encountered the unforgiving truths of the entertainment business after only 3 months of playing in this style together, when novelty quickly fades and tastes change at a dizzying rate. Although they both continued to perform, the formal cabaret act broke up. The two kept working together, but on a smaller scale, performing at smaller cabaret events, music halls, and private parties around the country. Even while these shows weren't as big as Terry Thomas's previous work, they still helped them stay relevant in London's ever-changing entertainment landscape. Not long after that, on June 6, 1938, Terry Thomas created history by broadcasting his first radio program. He made an appearance on Friends Today, a famous early evening show on BBC London that featured dancing, light entertainment, and variety acts, as well as music. Even though this should have been a smashing success, Terry Thomas would later confess with honesty and a touch of self-deprecating humor that it was far from his finest performance. My performance was subpar, if he had to say it himself. I failed miserably. His critical self-awareness and dogged pursuit of improvement were on full display in this introspective piece. I am far from disheartened. He took it as a lesson in the drastic differences between stage work and the demanding nature of radio performance. When the well-liked and fashionable bandleader Don Rico developed an interest in the two by the late summer of 1938, new doors opened for them. Rico extended an invitation for them to join his orchestra after seeing their promise. Pat Lansky played piano in this new group effort. Terry Thomas performed the role of compere or master of ceremonies for the orchestra's performances, allowing her musical talent to shine through in addition to her dancing abilities. He was a natural in front of an audience, and this part gave him the chance to showcase his improvisatory skills, wit, and charisma. He quickly became known as a promising young comedy talent in the entertainment industry, thanks to his charming and charmingly ridiculous persona. After many decades had passed, Terry Thomas and Pat Lansky's friendship had long since deteriorated. On February 1, 1962, They officially divorced after years of drifting apart and living different lifestyles. For the past 8 years, their distance had persisted. When Terry Thomas was single, he had a serious romance with Lorraine Desmond, an Australian singer and actor. Desmond, a vibrant and gifted woman, had a short but profound romance with Terry Thomas. But by the time the marriage had broken down, Desmond had already decided to go back to Australia. Thus this affair had also ended, where she would have a happy, steady marriage to a surgeon. Terry Thomas was extremely distraught at Desmond's departure. He was deeply saddened and compelled to reevaluate his personal life. When this significant relationship ended, his sexual disappointments had a profound impact on him. Despite his reputation for being charmingly distant and sophisticated in public. Following this breakup, he resumed his bachelor lifestyle, which, albeit appearing socially active on the outside, probably concealed a desire for a more meaningful relationship on the inside. When Terry Thomas met Belinda Cunningham, a young and beautiful woman, on vacation in Majorca 2 years ago, he unexpectedly filled that emotional void. When they met, Belinda was just 21 years old, yet she breathed new life and authenticity into his existence. They formed an authentic and loving relationship despite their vast age gap. Marriage took place in August 1963 after their affection had grown slowly but surely over the years. The ceremony, which was held in the Halstead Registry Office, close to Colchester in Essex, was small and intimate in comparison to the grandiose event that could have been anticipated from a guy of Terry Thomas's stage presence. A watershed moment in his life came when they were married. Belinda gave him things that would be crucial in the future: companionship, stability, and unfaltering support. Timothy Hoare, their only child, was born in 1964, the year they were married. The illustrious Princess Beatrice Hospital in London is where Timothy came into this world. A new chapter opened in Terry Thomas's life with the birth of his son, providing him with the solid feeling of purpose he had sorely needed over his many years in the entertainment industry. Despite being a late dad, becoming a father was one of his most treasured life experiences, and Belinda was there for him through the tougher years of his work and health. American actor Mickey Rooney was one of the many people Terry Thomas met in his extensive and diverse career in entertainment that inspired in him a deep and abiding hatred. Terry Thomas exuded the stereotypical air of an English gentleman, albeit one whose comic persona included an exaggerated air of aristocratic affectation. But he had a code of conduct that prioritized civility, humor, respect for others, and a touch of flair, even when arguing professionally. In contrast, Rooney appeared to embody all the traits that Terry Thomas disliked in a co-worker: extremely impolite, loud, haughty, and, most importantly, intransigent. The British actor was permanently marked with scorn from their professional dealings, and the animosity between them became legendary for its venom. During the 1963 production of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, an expansive ensemble comedy with a legion of comic performers, their paths most notably crossed. The film's anarchic charm helped it succeed at the box office, but the vibe behind the scenes was anything from peaceful. The conduct of Rooney on set was completely unacceptable to Terry Thomas, who was accustomed to working in ensembles with grace and a demeanor of cooperative professionalism. Rooney, who was at that point in his career fighting for relevance and financial security, had taken on an ostentatious, tyrannical attitude on set, maybe as a result of his desire to reassume the limelight. Astonishingly careless with technicians and fellow actors, yelling commands, and snatching scenes. He frequently irritated Terry Thomas's refined sensibilities by shouting over the director, interfering with rehearsals with coarse jokes, and creating an overall poisonous environment. More than merely annoying, Rooney's constant narcissism and rude behavior violated Terry Thomas's ideals for what an acting career should be. Terry Thomas loved the concept of outrageous comedy on television, but he couldn't stand it when it compromised basic human dignity off-screen. Especially offensive to him was Rooney's penchant for putting others down, whether it was crew members, extras, or even the wait staff during catered meals. Rooney had an obsessive need for attention. It was said that Terry Thomas compared working with Mickey Rooney to being confined in a room with an obnoxious, hyperactive child who would not be quiet or behave, a scathing comment that reflected his profound distaste. More than just displeasure or fleeting frustration, the hostility was palpable. Terry Thomas would relate his altercation with Rooney with an air of somewhat theatrical annoyance when questioned about his least favorite co-stars or worst on-set experiences in later years. Disagreements sprang from more than just personalities. For Terry Thomas, it was an issue of fundamental principle. He saw Rooney as the very definition of hideous Hollywood, not just an impish brat. Lazy, lacking in self-control, and prone to emotional instability. Terry Thomas seems reluctant or unable to forgive Rooney for his behavior, despite Rooney's clear talent and extensive career history in the sector. Terry Thomas' contempt for Rooney appeared to become harder with age, as if the actor had permanently damaged some vital component of Thomas's sensibility, in contrast to the numerous entertainment feuds that eventually dissipate. Even years after It's a Mad World was shot, there's a story of how Terry Thomas found out that Mickey Rooney might be at a party in Los Angeles. Life is too short to put up with that little man again, so he apparently apologized without thinking and departed right away. It was an unusual case of undiluted, unapologetic, and profoundly felt animosity for someone whose career was built on playing charming but quirky eccentrics. Neither a single incident nor any professional animosity between the two were the origins of Terry Thomas' hatred of Mickey Rooney. It intensified from the close-quarters intensity of film production and originated from a basic incompatibility of values. The only person Terry Thomas would publicly admit to openly despising was Mickey Rooney. That animosity spoke a great deal for a man whose contempt was as subtle as his distinctive gap-toothed grin. After learning that Terry Thomas was suffering from near oblivion, poverty, and illness, actors Jack Douglas and Richard Hope Hawkins organized a benefit performance on April 9, 1989, to raise money for Thomas. That gala, hosted at the Theatre Royal, Drury Lane, included 120 artists over the course of 5 hours, with Michael Caine serving as gala chairman and Phil Collins headlining the list. The performance, which earned more than $75,000 for Terry Thomas at Parkinson's UK, enabled Terry to relocate from his charity flat to the Godalming, Surrey care home Busbridge Hall. On January 8, 1990, he passed away there, at 78 years of age. At St. John the Baptist Church, Busbridge, the burial ceremony took place, while the theme from Those Incredible Guys in Their Flying Machines was played. At Guildford Crematorium, he was cremated.